Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, everybody. I just want to say this has been really great, and I want to thank Cassie for organizing all of this. I mean, when she was like, hey, like, let's do this talk, I'm like, I don't know, I don't have time. I'm in the middle of editing and illustrators and all this stuff, but just thank you for really organizing all of it and putting it together. And I'm so happy to be on the stage with all of you guys. It's great. I respect all of them so much. So, okay. So in the time that I have, I'm going to keep it kind of short since I told my story that was part of my talk earlier with the dude that I wanted to make out with, but you know. It was so funny because when that happened, I was like, this is kind of perfect that this is happening to me right now, because I think there's like this thing that like when people know that I'm a dating coach. I've been a dating coach for 10 years, for those of you. I look younger than I am. I'm almost 40. But it's funny because I think a lot of people are like, but you must know everything. And I've had people say that to me, or things don't happen to you that happen to normal people. Yeah, no, same things happen to me. And especially like when I mentioned before being on Tinder, like I have the same experiences. It's no different just because this is my profession, so to speak. So I'm really glad actually I'm last, because it was cool to hear what everyone was going to contribute today. Because I want to go to straight up start with like dating and dating apps, and where do you even start these conversations? Because I think that's really tough. I think that, you know, and I speak from personal experience, you know, coming from a small town in Ohio. I've been in LA for 15 years, but I didn't grow up learning any of this, you know? I mean, some of you might know I had a podcast for about 5 years that I ended last year, and before I ended it, I brought in groups of people to talk about consent, and if they learned it in sex ed and all these things, people aged 21 to 70 years old, and literally, I think there was maybe one person that had learned anything about consent, like through their growing up, okay? So I will say this too, though. I do feel like in those interviews and just with my coaching and speaking, there is a learning curve. It seems like for people, like I said, I'm almost 40, so people around my age and older, in my personal experience, it seems to be a little bit harder for them to grasp, generally speaking. Now, again, we're in a group of people right now who are obviously here to learn. We're obviously probably more sex positive than not. But especially when I go back to the Midwest, there's definitely a generational thing at play right now, for sure. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. When I go speaking on college campuses, they're way more open to these ideas about boundaries. And so I just think it's important I think it's so important for this conversation in general. If we know what the problem is or what's happening, then we can come up with solutions better. But if we don't even acknowledge what's happening, you know, if we're just like, why are all these people speaking up right now? Or what? It's like, well, then nothing's going to change. But the difference now is that people are not afraid to speak up. And so it doesn't matter if we want to choose to ignore consent, blah, 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 on my platform, whatever. I don't have a lot of time. Okay, here we go. So practical things. Okay, let's do it. So one of the things that I think is really great, and I'll shout out to Google as well, yes, no, maybe lists are so great. So there's a lot of different organizations and people who have created these lists called yes, no, maybe lists, and basically some of them are like hundreds of items that you can say, oh yes, I'm a yes to that, oh I'm a no to that, oh I'm a maybe to that. Most of the lists are sexual. So, although, you know, I like this idea. Here's your homework, so to speak. You could create your own yes, no, maybe list, and that could be even in terms of dating. It doesn't have to be just sexual. You know, what are things that are a yes for you right now? I want to say too, this can all evolve. It doesn't have to be forever. And I think with all of these conversations too, I think it's important that we're aware of the fact that we're all evolving personally, and we're all on different journeys in our relationships and dating lives, you know. Right now you could be like, you know what, like I want to, you know, find a partner, just a sexual partner right now, that's all I want, but maybe later this year you're going to be like, you know what, I think I would like to be in a monogamous relationship or a polyamorous relationship. So give yourself permission to flow within those parameters. Okay, so I actually, in the handout, I gave a handout out at the beginning. If you didn't get the handout, it's on that table over there. This is kind of like something, this is what I do when I have coaching sessions one-on-one with clients. I give this sheet out, the front side, because somebody had touched on it earlier. The first thing that I notice when I speak to clients and on college campuses is most people aren't sure about their identity. That is huge. That could mean a lot of different things. Your identity, what does that mean? That could mean, you know, lifestyle or sexual orientation, but that could also mean, you know, what does that mean in terms of likes, dislikes, what kind of partner you'd like. But you have to know what you want first, especially if you're on like a dating app or like a dating website. It's literally just a pool of everybody. I can't stress that enough. So when you're in that pool, I mean, obviously it's very like photo visual oriented, but unless you know what you're looking for, you could be matching with a lot of people who are really cute, but you might have zero in common and not be on the same track. You know, here's a little tip for those of you who are on dating apps and in the digital dating realm. Pick a keyword or a couple keywords to put on your app or profile. Like sex positive is great if you are. If you aren't, don't put that. You know, if you're more traditional, maybe, you know, just looking for, you know, someone traditional to maybe explore a relationship with, maybe with the right person. Something like that. I love that phrase, by the way. I had a coaching session last week with somebody, and really great guy, and he was like, yeah, you know, I want to update my profile, but I don't really want, I'm not looking for a wife, but if I met the right person, that'd be great. I said, then put something like that, you know, just here to meet new people, but open to a relationship with the right person. Something like that is perfect, because then there's not pressure attached. People kind of know where you're beginning in terms of meeting them, you know? So on the sheet, okay, so your identity, sexual orientation, lifestyle preferences, keep in mind that this can shift and evolve, of course. And then you can fill this out accordingly. I have kind of a short, rudimentary yes, no, maybe list. What are your non-negotiables or things that you're interested in? And at the bottom, I thought this was really important, okay? A lot of people, in my experience coaching for 10 years and working with people, and in my experiences too, by the way, I'm not immune to any of this. This has been a big self-journey for me as well. But a lot of times I feel like people are looking for relationships to make them happy, but they're not happy solo without a partner. That's so important. So at the very end, you know, what are 3 things you could do to make yourself happy today even without a partner? Finding that happiness is so important. And honestly, like, I'll speak for myself. When I'm happy and not thirsty, so to speak, do we know what that means? Okay. For those of you who don't know, the thirst. You're drinking water at a perfect time. Thirsty. Not in that way. It's basically if you're like, oh my gosh, I want a partner so bad. So people can, I guess it's another word for desperation, sort of. And so people can feel that thirst from you. So if you can find out how to make yourself happy in everyday life, like, people are going to be like, oh my God, yes. And P.S., not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay too. Because not everyone likes me. People see me sometimes, they're like, that's a lot. Dating coach, and she's kind of alpha, and you know what? She likes to have her own alone time, and I don't know, and that's fine. Going back to this conversation about consent and being open about your boundaries, that is part of it too. Some people will be scared off. Totally. And that's all right, because guess what? This is like, it's helping you weed out people and potential partners. You know, for you, it's like, for us, all of us, you know, once we can get really comfortable with what our boundaries are, our yes, no, maybes, and all of that, you know, we can start communicating them as comfortably as we can. I still get nervous. I mean, I always get nervous having those conversations with people. Because it's like you do kind of revert back to this, like, adolescent, like, oh, are they going to like me? Like, am I going to, like, what's going to happen here? And, like, you know, because of course we all want to go out with people that, like, find us interesting and that we're, you know, attracted to and all those things. But because this is a different time, going back to dating in the MeToo era, it's really important that we disclose who we are up front. It really is important. And again, for like in terms of our own safety, in terms of someone possibly feeling uncomfortable and possibly accusing us of something, obviously these aren't fail-safes, but if you can get comfortable expressing what your boundaries, knowing your boundaries, and then expressing them as well, then it can just eliminate a lot of drama at the least, at the very, very least. Okay, let me go back to my list. All right. So, pop culture, real quick, a quick word on that. I had someone say to me, let me take my jacket off, I'm a little hot. I get like all pepped up when I do these. I love it. I love it. I had someone say to me, oh, thanks everybody. I had someone say to me, they're like, well, you know, but what about pop culture? Like all these movies and things, it's like, you know, it's like the guy comes in and like whisks someone away or like keeps making out with her until she's like, okay, and gives in. And so right now, not so much at this moment, but we've been operating based on pop culture, it seems to me. Yes, you know, patriarchy and, you know, history and, you know, women being more subordinate in certain ways and in certain, just I guess across the board. But really, if we look at, I mean, I know I was, you know, born in 79, so I grew up in the 80s. Like, pop culture was huge. That's where we learned. We watched all that stuff and learned so much from it. So it makes sense that we would get our information about dating and relationships and especially sex from that. It's crazy, you know? But so now we're in an age of enlightenment. We're in an age of evolution and revolution completely, where that's changing and we're actually being conscious about what's happening. Like, we're actually paying attention. This is the first time, and I think most of us could agree, that there's been such deep, in-depth conversations about this stuff on so many levels that I've never experienced in my lifetime. You know, colleagues of mine who are older, or colleagues of ours who are older than us, are like, this is the first time in 20 years I've never ever had these conversations. So they're really difficult conversations, but they're so important. And for you personally, and for all of us personally, it's going to just make all of our sex lives and dating lives better. Because again, anyone who can't handle your truth, I didn't mean to Jack Nicholson, but anyone, I just kind of came up. But anyone who can't handle your truth, like, isn't someone who's worthy of you anyway. And if, in the beginning, if you're saying what your boundaries are, and they're not respecting that in the beginning, then it's not going to get better. It's just not. That's, like, we're talking, again, dating coach, right? Date one, you're you know, meeting potential people to go out with. If someone is not respecting that early on, just they're a no. And it sucks. It sucks. I know it. It's like the dude. It's like super cute. I see potential, but no. That's done, you guys. The time for potential is done. Like, either they're willing to adapt and kind of see what you're bringing and want to meet you in the middle some way, or they don't. And that's it. And again, that's like a time saver for you. It's drama saving for all of us. And there you go. Okay, what else do I want to say real quick? A great way to test somebody's boundaries, for me personally, I don't need all of LA to have my phone number. So if I'm on a dating app and someone's like, oh my God, you seem great, like, how about I get your number? For me, I don't. I don't give a phone number out until I meet someone in person, partially because of safety, again, partially because I just don't need all of Los Angeles having my phone number. And you guys, anyone who argues with you with that is ridiculous, because it's on your phone and it's an app just like texting. It's no different. So for me, it's always a little bit of a red flag if someone's like, why won't you give me your number? Because first of all, why are you getting angry? And second of all, it's just like texting. Okay, so that, for me, that's an interesting test to see, yes.
What if it's the opposite direction? As a woman, I've often wanted to get the guy's number. Yes.
Why? Tell me why. Can you tell me why? What, like, meaning you Google search?
You can let it know.
Background. Okay. That's your...
Not all the time.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it makes sense, maybe there's something a little bit curious. I'm a mom. I'm not going to go out on a date when I find something. You know, I found a guy got fired for sexual harassment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
just from the phone number?
particularly because I'm looking for a particular kind of sexual experience.
Okay, yeah.
Someone, and I'm like, he's a no. I'm not even going to bother.
No, absolutely, and I think that's great. So for which I can't see your name tag.
I don't want to say it.
Oh, true. For our guest who just spoke and shared with us, thank you for sharing. You know, we know what your boundary is, and that's great. And so for you, I don't think it's inappropriate to ask for a phone number. Now, if they were to say, I'm not giving it to you, then you have to make a decision accordingly. And that's up to you, right? Because the thing is that we cannot control other people's behavior in terms of what they want to share or don't, but it's up to us to make a choice based on that. So for you, that would be a no. And for someone else over here who said that. And that's okay. You know, for me, again, if someone were, I have said a few times, you know, I do some like public speaking and stuff, so I don't want someone to have my number. And usually someone will understand a little better if I say that. But either way, I'm not going to argue with someone over an app. If we haven't even gone out yet, if that's too much, that's it. You know? Did you have a question?
Because in my case, I want to know if I'm talking with a real person. It could be a scam.
Yeah, sure. And I know there's a lot of that on apps too. I mean, for me, I always wonder if you can really know. I feel like you can still get scammed even if you have their phone number.
But there's an app.
It's better, but you could still get scammed. So I know that's I don't have an answer for that because that's a massive problem on apps. It is, and I'm not sure how to combat that other than I did go to a meeting at Tinder once and I almost asked that, but then they're like, oh, we're out of time, and I'm like, oh God, of course you are. Of course you're out of time, Tinder. Let's see. So again, I just want to wrap up and say, so back up to the list really quickly. Back to the list. So on the back of this handout, this is actually some of what's going to be in my book. So you guys get a sneak preview. Yay! By the way, the book will be out. It's right now the working title is the Consent Guidebook. I'm still working on a subtitle. It's basically a consent conversation starter. So it is not going to be the end-all be-all of consent advice. I cannot do that on my own. This is an ongoing conversation. I literally have been writing this book for 2 years, and I was really nervous to do it. And, you know, then Trump happened, and then MeToo happened, and I was like, why am I not saying something? Like, this is stupid because I'm nervous? No, like, we got to do it. So what I did, though, and these lovelies are in the book as well, I ended up getting 40 contributors to add their consent advice to the book, too. Because it doesn't need to be one person. I have some advice, but I don't have all the answers. And none of us do individually. We all have things, and collectively, that's where we're stronger, and that's where we find more answers, okay? So look out for the book. And I'll just put vibes to the universe that my illustrator will hurry and finish this week. Okay, so on the back of the sheet, 14 questions for deciding if you're ready to get intimate with a potential partner. Again, these are just starters for you. So maybe there's someone you met and you're like, oh, you know, I really feel attracted to this person, and, you know, but I just don't know. And so these are basically questions you could ask yourself. You know, do you feel physically safe with this potential partner? You know, and these, you might not have a definitive answer, but it's a nice way to start thinking about this before you're even having the conversation with that person. It's like, let me check in with myself first and see how I feel about the potential of being intimate with this person, you know? Because again, if you're going to invite someone up and they're going to be like, we're not having the intercourse tonight, you don't want to get into that. And again, you can't, the intercourse, I don't know you guys, okay. You know, does your potential partner lose control when under the influence? I'm not going to jump too much into that because that's a whole nuanced situation. I talk a little bit about it in my book, but, you know, I think that's really important. I think there's actual psychologists and people who could talk, maybe even like law enforcement, who can talk more about being under the influence and having intimate interactions around that. That's way too much. I don't even know why I brought it up because I'm overwhelmed by that too, and I don't have the answers to that. But, you know, in terms of your own social interactions, you know, it might be a good choice to be careful about choosing people who, you know, maybe aren't themselves when they're intoxicated, whatever their level of intoxication or choice of intoxication is.
I don't know if you have this one on the list, but it's a really big one for me. I've seen it on other lists, which is how the person treats third people.
Absolutely.
Third parties, like somebody that they're not trying to woo.
Mm-hmm.
How do they treat the server? How do they treat the person at the door?
Absolutely. I'm a big one on that as well. And then just in summary, the last part of the back of the handout, consent, green lights, and red flags. I wonder if this is on here. Okay, so really quick, I'll just run down the list. Respecting someone's venue preferences. If someone is like, well, you have to come to my house. Like, and that's it. Like that, you know, anything that feels insistent and that there's no wiggle room, that for me, that would be a no. And everyone has to decide what's good for them, right? Respecting someone's body, do you just feel like you're a bunch of body parts put together? Now, again, for some people, in the right circumstances, in certain circumstances, that might be what you want. But again, it's important to know what that is for you, you know, what your levels are. Respecting someone's energy level or stamina, respecting somebody's physical capabilities or limitations. Respecting someone's preferred form of birth control, which I think Cassie mentioned. You know, stealthing is, what is that? You know, that's crazy. Do we know what that is? Do we know what stealthing is? So it's basically when a male, I guess a penis owner has a condom on and then during sex takes it off and doesn't tell the other person. Like, that's apparently a big thing, especially, you know, I love the college kids, but with younger kids that becomes a thing more and more. Yes and yes.
Just one comment on that. I had special access to the original documents regarding stealthing. Journalists published it like crazy, but they didn't actually talk about the 28-page real document that is behind an educational wall. You have to be a professor or someone with access, and someone passed the document to me. Most of this stealthing that's been studied has been male on male.
Yeah, interesting.
Primarily what's being called top supremacy, and it's the right of male tops to penetrate and shoot their seed into the bottoms.
And so it's interesting. Thank you for mentioning that.
It's not just a pregnancy issue.
Totally. Well, I mean, yeah, it's pregnancy. It's just general boundaries. It's like we broke this agreement, you know. But you know, for me, it's more, I've had a few conversations with a few clients who were specifically gay men. I am not an expert in that, although I am an inclusive dating coach. That's a whole other experience, and I've had multiple gay men say to me, it's rampant in our community. And again, for me, it's like, okay, great. This is like maybe we should do a workshop, you know, that's, you know, specifically gay people, LGBT people, on a panel, because there are different, I mean, you could talk about the black community. I mean, there's so many different nuances depending on the subsections or different groupings of people, you know, but thank you for bringing that up. Yes?
I have a question. So I've had women who would say that, oh, I love you so much that I'm ready to take the next step, no condom. And then they say, oops, by the way, I forgot to take some like pills or something. They say, you're on the pill, and then down the line at some point they say, oh, yeah, once in a while I forget it. I'm like, fuck.
Well, of course.
So is there something along those lines as you have a term for it called stealthing if you take the condom off?
Yeah.
If a girl says she's on birth control but she's not being on it, is that a...
No, I mean, either way, it's not okay.
It's pill stealthing. Pill stealthing. I just made that up.
Pill stealthing. I like it, Jean. Yeah, no, it's not okay.
Let's put a button on that because we're going to get into Q&A in just a second.
Yeah, let me just wrap it up real quick. Yeah. You know, respecting someone's sexual pace, like we're saying before, if you're just wanting to kiss, wanting to just make out, and someone's not okay with that, no, you know, and same respecting someone else. If you're like super hot and bothering, you're like, oh my God, I thought tonight was going to be the night, and they're like, no, like, cut it out, like, that's not an agreement, it's no, right? And respecting someone's yes, no, maybe list, again. And that can be fun. I think Cassie might have said, that can be like a sexy thing you do together. Like, print it out, circle the things, and then be like, oh my God, let's share our yes, no, maybe lists together. Okay, let's do it over. Like, you know, like that's so, for me, I'm sapiosexual and I get a little nerdy about this stuff. So for me, that is fun. Like, that would be super fun to do that. Like, oh, let's see what they circle.
There's a really funny website called mojoupgrade.com. And the mojoupgrade.com, you enter your email address, the other person enters their email address, and then you go down the list of things that you would like to do, you'd consider doing for the sake of the other partner, or you just won't do. And then only those things where you guys band grab are shared with each other, so you're not embarrassed at all. You just share those commonalities. It's a really fun app.
I love it. So, yes.
mojoupgrade.com.
It's like speed dating. Like, I used to run speed dating events, and it was like, you circle the people you like, and then you only see the people you match with, so you don't see who you're rejecting, so to speak. Anyway. So, in conclusion, I just want to say, you know, I guess, one, identity, be clear about who you are and what your boundaries are with people. And again, that can evolve. So give yourself some space to let that evolve, you know. And it might be different with different people, you know. That's okay. And, you know, just, I think we need, well, that's all I'm going to say for now, because there's so much else I could say, but I'm like going back to what everyone else said, and they said it well. So thank you so much. The book will be out hopefully end of this month or next month, so hopefully I have business cards.
If you'd like to pre-order, there is a little sheet there where the PayPal and the Venmo is mentioned, and you can just get it for just $10 right now. And also, you could just write a little note with your email address, so that Erin can get in touch with you and get you the book.
I actually have an email list too, if you'd like to write your email down, because I'll be emailing everyone when the book is launched, and I'll be doing a bunch more speaking, and hopefully with these fine folks, I'll bring them aboard, and the other 40 panelists in my book as well, because it's just like we all need to be talking about this and sharing and encouraging each other to just not make this taboo. Like, why is this like? Come on, now is the time. So, thank you so much. Yay!
You guys want to take 10 minutes,
Yeah,
stretch your legs, relax a little bit? Mingle?
I pre-ordered a signed copy.
Yeah, yes you did. It's true. It's true.